A milestone moment creates a beautiful memory for years to come. And now's the time to celebrate it with 35% off select pieces at Blue Nile. Blue Nile makes your most valuable moments sparkle with jewelry gifts of the highest quality offered at the best price. You'll also find expert guidance and the level of convenience you'd expect from the world's leading online jeweler. Right now, take advantage of 35% off select pieces at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com. BlueNile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Experian. Are you paying for subscriptions you don't use, but can't find the time or energy to cancel them? Experian could cancel unwanted subscriptions for you, saving you an average of $270 per year. And plenty of time. Download the Experian app. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
Welcome to the David Lynch podcast here on Anfield Index. These shows are syndicated episodes of podcasts also available on David's personal YouTube channel and Substack page. To sign up to David's brilliant Substack, please visit davidlynchlfc.substack.com. And be sure to follow David on Twitter at davidlynchlfc.
Hi everyone, so I'm just jumping on to react to the big breaking news around Liverpool, which is that they have rejected a €14 million bid from Marseille for the midfielder Wataru Endo. Now, as quick as you get these stories out, it's very much my understanding from Liverpool sources that Endo bid has been rejected, but as soon as you get these stories out there, already you see further stories coming out and further detail being put on by other journalists, and we're already seeing now that there are suggestions that maybe that bid was even made as far back as a few weeks ago. And so maybe not current news, but Liverpool's source is definitely confirming that bid was in there. But I think the fact even now that we're hearing that maybe it was a couple of weeks ago or so, I still think that adds something to the story and actually makes this story even more interesting, which because of what it tells us really about what Wataru Endo's future at Liverpool looks like really, and what could be happening with him this summer. And to sum it up really, I think it shows that there's definitely a willingness to sell on Liverpool's side now. As I say, it's not just Marseille who've been in for him, and you could be concerned that maybe they've already solved that need by recently signing Højbjerg. There are also, I understand, a couple of Bundesliga clubs sniffing around Endo as well, a possibility for him to go back there. He obviously did very well in that league before moving to Liverpool. So I think that this isn't the end of that story, but as I say, I think the key takeaway at the moment is that it shows a real willingness, I think, on Liverpool's side, that they will be open to the idea of selling the player. And further to that, it's my understanding that the player hasn't quite worked his way into Slot's plans so far in this pre-season. It's not really a case that he's anyone that Liverpool would say we can't sell him, or the manager would really turn down any offers at all for a player, because he's not going to be integral to the plans, or that is very much my understanding at the moment. Now, you must remember that Slot has had a real good look at the player as well in pre-season. Obviously, there was concern that maybe he would be part of the Olympics with the Japan squad as an overage player. That didn't happen, so Endo was able to report from day one of pre-season. He's been in front of the manager, and we've spoken so many times that this period is all about the manager assessing what players he wants, who's going to be part of his plans, who he wants to keep very much, and who maybe will be open to selling it. It's my understanding, as I say, that sources are suggesting to me that Endo is maybe someone Liverpool would be open to selling. This isn't the end of this story, that they've rejected a bid and they want to keep him. I think this is very much someone they're open to, and you have to say, it kind of makes sense really that Endo is in this position because, let's not forget that he was very much a Jurgen Klopp signing last summer. Obviously not one that the recruitment team will be massively pushing for given his age. Very unusual that Liverpool would make that 30-year-old signing, isn't it? He was very much seen as someone for the short term, and as I say, very much Jurgen Klopp's man. He'd watched a lot of him in the Bundesliga, been really impressed, and you have to say, even for a short-term signing, Liverpool have had quite a lot out of him in that one season he's been there so far. He was a big part of Liverpool getting into the top four last season. He helped them bridge that gap, also helped them win a trophy, was a big part of that, and put in a lot of decent performances across the season. But in terms of that consistency level of being a world-class operator in that number 6 position, I don't think that was ever going to come for him, and we haven't seen that yet. And the likelihood is at the age of 30, that isn't going to come for him either. So, with him being Jurgen Klopp's man, a short-term signing, it's not a huge surprise, I would say, that maybe Arne Slot has come in and looked at him and thought, that is a position we can upgrade on. It's an area where we can get someone in who's a little younger, with a little bit more room to grow, and who is operating maybe at a higher level. But the big question now, of course, is, whether those bids come in. Liverpool clearly, that first bid from Marseille, around £11.8 million, that 14 million euros is worth at the moment. That obviously wasn't enough to force their hand, but clearly, if someone gets a little bit closer to maybe that 16 million that they paid to Stuttgart, then very much tempting for Liverpool, and clearly something they would be looking at. But also, I think you've got to say that the players' view in this is absolutely crucial as well. Now, I'm trying to find out on that side of things, where the player stands. I mean, he has spoken in the past, hasn't he, about wanting to fight for his place at Liverpool and sticking around, even if they were to sign a holding midfielder this summer. So, it remains to be seen, really. Is he going to be true to his word on that, or does he have a conversation with Slot where Slot says, look, you aren't going to play enough minutes here this season. It's maybe time to move on. It's a really interesting one because, you can't forget that even if Liverpool viewed him as a short-term signing, or he's Jurgen's man, look, he's signed a contract with Liverpool and they have to honour that. So it's a sticky situation, I suppose, potentially, if the player says that he really doesn't want to leave. But we'll have to see how that one unfolds over the coming days in terms of whether the player does want to stay and fight for his place, despite the fact that he's clear. And as I say, my understanding, he wouldn't really be a big part of Arne Slot's plans going forward. But I think, again, interesting in terms of what I'm saying around that Liverpool clearly are open to selling, because I think what it says about their plans in the market, I think quite clearly Liverpool now are going to look at that holding midfield position, particularly, if they are able to move Endo on. I think that will open up a gap, won't it, in Liverpool? Clearly, they've been looking for such a long time for that elite, world-class number 6. Do they think this is the summer where they're going to get it? We will have to see. Now, I've said in the past on videos, actually, that I think something had to really give in that midfield, or something still has to give in that midfield, because I think the numbers don't quite add up. I've made this argument a lot, and quite a lot of people disagree with me on this, but I truly believe, look, Liverpool missed Thiago Alcantara for pretty much the entirety of last season. They didn't have Stefan Bajcetic for pretty much the entirety of last season, and yet they were okay really for much of it. Despite having a huge injury crisis, they were okay for numbers in central midfield for much of the season. Now, to me, you've got Bajcetic back, and yes, you've lost Thiago, but that's almost 1-for-1 in terms of losing Thiago and getting Bajcetic back. But so still, really, for me, the numbers didn't add up. To add another holding midfielder in there, I couldn't really work out how Liverpool might do that. And to me, this news coming out, it makes it all make a little bit more sense that if Endo were to leave, if you were to accept that, there isn't going to be games for me here and I maybe need to move on elsewhere, then I think it would make sense, really, that then does open up that gap. It does give Liverpool the flexibility and the numbers in there to then go and sign that elite level holding midfielder that so many have wanted them to sign for such a long time. So I think that, kind of makes all this make a little bit more sense now. But we, as I've said, we will have to see if something does give on it now in terms of, does Endo accept the move? Do Liverpool get a bid in that they think is acceptable? There's an awful lot up in the air at the moment. I think this story's going to run and run, but as I say, opens up possibilities in terms of incomings, and of course is a huge story in terms of an outgoing as well. So we'll have to see how things shake out. But, Richard Hughes did promise, didn't he, around August, that things were going to get going in the transfer market, and I think we're starting to see the signs of that. As usual, let me know in the comments what you think. What would be an acceptable offer for Endo? Do you think Liverpool should keep hold of him, even if they were to sign another holding midfielder? Maybe you think that they're a little bit light in that position. Maybe Bajcetic isn't ready enough to pick up all those minutes that you might need to. Let me know all your thoughts. Always interested to hear those. And as ever, if you can like and subscribe, that's always massively helpful to the channel. I really appreciate it. Got huge views on that last video, by the way, in the pre-season game review. So more of those to come if you enjoyed that one. So keep an eye out for that. And as ever, whenever there's more transfer news to come, which it looks like it's going to get a little bit busier in August, then you'll find it on the channel, and I'll be back on here. So I'll see you guys very soon.
Sports Social Podcast Network.